Coming to you from his studio in downtown San Francisco, this is the Backstage Bay Area podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Hi, welcome to Backstage Bay Area. I'm Steve Roby. In the late 1950s, a major change took place in American sound architecture. It was the shift from the fast-paced intensity of hard bop to the broad, meditative sounds of modal jazz, a change marked by Miles Davis on his 1959 masterpiece, Kinda Blue. Today we are joined by Javon Jackson, a saxophonist who not only understands history, but has lived it, from the bandstand of Art Blakey to his own boundary-pushing explorations of the American songbook. We'll be discussing his upcoming tribute to Miles Davis at SF Jazz and his striking new project, reimagining Bob Dylan's poetry. Javon, welcome to Backstage Bay Area.
Hello, Steve. Good to be with you.
All right. Greetings from San Francisco, my friend.
Thank you.
Where am I reaching you today?
I'm in Avon, Connecticut. Nice and cold.
That's nice and sunny here, but we won't get into the weather. Javon, you noted that you grew up with almost no awareness of rock music, not even someone as iconic as Bob Dylan. Since Art Blakey's attorney first introduced you to his catalog when you were in your 20s, how has your perspective as a pure jazz musician allowed you to interpret his melodies without the baggage of the original folk or rock context?
As a musician trying to evolve and expand, when I joined Art Blakey at that time, and I did get introduced to Bob Dylan by his attorney, his name was Murray Becker, and being willing to give a listen or a gaze in that direction. And then slowly but surely, I was being pulled in other directions musically too. I was open to it. I appreciated the words, the verbiage, and also more and more I got into him as a person that seemed to be very supportive of the underserved and underrepresented.
Right.
And some of the context to which he wrote his poetry supported those initiatives. And then also a lot of his music, in my mind anyway, they're love songs. So there was just a different way that he would present him in his poetry. And then also I was been a fan of other master poets, whether it be Nikki Giovanni or Maya Angelou and others, and also folk musicians like Josh White I became aware of. So it's really not too far to the left or to the right way, because a lot of the even American songbook composers, they're poets of sorts. And then I came up, as we look at what might be called today as hip hop or rap, and they're poets in my mind as well. So just being willing to accept or sit down and be curious enough to listen to other things around me.
Yeah, that's great. On your new album, Jackson Plays Dylan, it was originally conceived with the late Nikki Giovanni, as you just mentioned, her participation with plans for her to write new poetry in dialogue with these songs. Following her passing in 2024, the project transitioned into a dual tribute. In what ways would you say her absence influenced these final arrangements?
Well, what happened was the first recording I did with Nikki was the gospel according to Nikki Giovanni. And she always wanted me to say that was my title, not hers, because she always felt that was an arrogant title coming from her perspective. But I just felt it was an apropos title in terms of she picked those hymns that we recorded. It was at that time I had in my mind already I was going to do a Bob Dylan recording in terms of all of his selections that I would pick from his songbook. But Nikki wanted to do a second recording, which we did, was Nikki and Javon Go to the Movies. And I told her about the Bob Dylan project. She said, okay, well, let's do this. And then on that project, I'd love to offer some new poetry. And I'm going to reach out to Bobby, as she called him, to get him to participate on the recording with us. Well, she passed away before that came to fruition, her reaching out to Mr. Dylan. So the spirit of the recording is kind of through my vantage point, but I want to celebrate my time with Nikki and honor her as an unbelievable poet as we celebrate, the band celebrates another incredible poet, and they're roughly around the same age. So they came up in that period when there was a lot of maybe turmoil, you might call it, in United States, and they were willing to speak truth to power in a way. So that's why I dedicate the recording to Nikki, because she helped me to see things from a whole nother vantage point. So the time spent with her, I'm better for it, and I'm a different person coming through my years with her.
What a very nice gesture.
Thank you.
You mentioned being drawn to the humanism in Dylan's songs. On the track Hurricane, which is about the fate of boxer Rubin Hurricane Carter, could you share the backstory behind this song on the album and how you approached the arrangement?
I was watching a movie with one of my heroes, the actor Denzel Washington, portraying Hurricane in the movie. And throughout the movie, I would hear this theme that had violin in it. It was just very compelling. And at the end, it let you know that it was written by Bob Dylan. I did some research and found out, I think the movie came out in 1999, but Mr. Dylan wrote that piece back in 1976 during the time that Mr. Carter, Hurricane Carter, was going through a tumultuous time in his life with being accused of something that falsely accused. And so how Bob Dylan was, again, out there fighting for someone who could use another voice. So that's kind of how I was drawn to the piece, and definitely wanted to include it as a nod to Mr. Dylan and a nod to Mr. Hurricane Carter for what he went through during that time. In terms of how we did it, I just wanted to add a word, maybe would be boogaloo, in terms of maybe how one might look at a groove, maybe in the 70s, and we're talking about Paterson, New Jersey, the East Coast. And so I'm hearing that kind of spirit, because I didn't really want to do what we might call 4/4 on it. So we felt that, and I felt the Fender Rhodes would be a nice touch to it too. The Fender Rhodes just has a certain earthiness to it. And so that's why the Fender Rhodes. And then a drummer, a fantastic drummer, Ryan Sands, I said, I'd like something that, I don't know if I said funk, but I did say something that gives me a groovy, syncopated type spirit. And so that's what he gave me. And the bassist is Isaac Levian, who played well. And again, we had never, those two individuals, I've never played with them at all before this recording. So it really was very organic in how we went in the studio, a little bit of a rehearsal, and then we just kind of presented the music. And one of the things we tried to do, I wanted to do anyway, is the music, you've heard it, Steve, where everything is crossfades. And what I mean by that, the first piece, the one I wrote for Mr. Dylan, one for Bob Dylan, at the end of that piece, prior to the end of the piece, you hear maybe somewhat of a segue into another piece. And basically that is the second track before you get to the second track. So we fade out the first track, and then you hear the second track, but it was introduced in track 1. And then in track 2, we introduced track 3 in track 2. We fade it out. And then in track 3, you've already heard the introduction into track 3 from track 2. If that makes sense as a listener. Did you hear that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's the new single from the album, right?
The single is Hurricane currently. And I think the other one is, might have just come out a couple of days ago, is Gotta Serve Somebody, another Bob Dylan original. And that was special guest is Lisa Fisher, who's fantastic.
Yeah. Right? A Bay Area favorite, I might add.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, each track, in the way, I was hoping to provide somewhat of a cliffhanger towards the next track.
All right. Well, let's listen to a sample now. This is Hurricane from the new album, Jackson Plays Dylan. That's Javon Jackson with Hurricane. It's from his new album, Jackson Plays Dylan. Javon Jackson is my guest today. Javon, let's pivot to the Miles Davis legacy, moving from the folk-infused poetry of Bob Dylan to the blueprints of modern jazz. You're stepping into the space famously occupied by John Coltrane for the Kind of Blue tribute at SF Jazz. Coltrane was known for his sheets of sound approach that contrasted with Miles' minimalism. In this tribute, how do you balance honoring those iconic solos while asserting your own voice as a tenor player in 2026?
It's always an interesting question with those kind of situations when you're playing in an ensemble that had such an illustrious history. I was fortunate, as you mentioned before, to play with Art Blakey, and he helped us, the messengers that were in his band at my time and prior to, and always let us know that your responsibility is just to be the best you can be and honor that spirit. There was one occasion when Art had wanted to go back into the Messenger songbook and do a piece of music written by Wayne Shorter entitled Children of the Night. And he asked me if I would like to play that. And I said, wow, I'll try to do my best. While Wayne Shorter was so, and he said, don't worry about Wayne Shorter, just be you. And it wasn't that he didn't love Wayne Shorter, because he did love Wayne Shorter, but he was trying to inspire me or give me the confidence to be what you can be. Because if you're always concerned about someone else, it will be it's daunting enough, but it'll make it so much more difficult to play the music. So in the spirit of what you're saying, just to be in that opportunity to try to spend some time. Obviously, I'm a student of Mr. Coltrane. I'm a student of Mr. Miles Davis. I was fortunate to have a relationship with Mr. Jimmy Cobb, very close relationship. So I knew in talking with him, that he told me that they didn't think much differently about the recording as opposed to other recordings. They just went in and they were recording. And he always joked, he said, if I knew it was going to be as impactful as it was, I would have asked for more money.
Yeah, of course.
So the idea is just, you're right, to look at some of the shapes or some of the themes that that group was trying to pontificate, if you will, or try to present and do your best in that spirit. I mean, in addition to John Coltrane being, as you said, known for what we call sheets of sound, to me, he was a blues man. He was always finding the notes that got to your heart, and I call those the blue notes. And also, he also had space. He also had such great rhythm, and so he encompassed all of the elements of this music, and specifically the saxophone, going back to Mr. Coleman Hawkins forward. So I stand on the shoulders of Mr. Hawkins, Mr. John Coltrane, definitely Mr. Sonny Rollins, and many others. So it's a big continuum, and I'm just happy to be able to talk about these individuals the way I'm talking to them, to you at this time. So it's really just a feeling of appreciation and extreme honor.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the space between the notes. Miles was known for what he chose not to play. As a tenor player, how do you incorporate that silence into your phrasing when performing this specific material?
Again, focusing on Art Blakey, one time he was having a conversation with myself, a couple other messengers at that time, and he asked us, he said, could you tell me what your day was like? It was about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Could you tell me what your day was like? And I give you 200 words. And we all said, yeah, sure. He said, okay, can you tell me what your day is like? And I'll give you 10 words. That's Miles Davis. So seemingly, and that's what he said. So it's actually more difficult, is the point, to be able to give us everything with less notes as opposed to playing more notes. So the idea of how he could say everything in such a concise way is genius. And so for me, it is trying to find a way through the various chords and strategies and themes of the music to sometimes say it very quickly or say it in a way that is nice and strong and succinct, I was going to say, without using all of the nails in the in your
Tool
in,
pocket.
in the toolbox. Yeah, I'll say it that way as opposed to
Yeah.
saying ammunition.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the challenge. And again, as individuals, we all think very complex, and sometimes we think simply. I mean, there are times when Mr. John Coltrane could be very, very simple, and then sometimes he was working on a lot of things, and so the music maybe in his mind called for more of this, and so he gave more of this, which was, as you said, allowed for a beautiful foil between he and Miles Davis. Another incredible thing about Miles is he gave Mr. John Coltrane that platform, because when we go back in history, we do know that everyone didn't love John Coltrane the way they love him now. And there were people that really, critics and writers, whatever the title is, that really said some things that weren't so kind.
Right.
But Miles didn't concern himself with that. As musicians, we shouldn't concern ourselves with that, because actually what's being said about us is none of our business. But anyway, he allowed him to develop and for that seed to grow and the flower to blossom.
Absolutely. Well said. Let's hear a sample from that classic album, Kinda Blue. This track is called All Blues. Javon, let's discuss the live Miles Davis tribute coming up at SF Jazz's Minor Auditorium. For these performances, you're sharing the front line with Dr. Eddie Henderson. Given his personal history with Miles, does his presence on stage influence how you interpret the melodies?
Sure does. I had the fortune to perform with Dr. Eddie Henderson over the years, numerous times and different situations. So I'm a fan of his playing. I'm in awe of his abilities to still do what he does and his integrity. So absolutely. And the fact that he knew Miles and the way he shapes it gives us that feeling to that spirit. So it allows us to try to make the experience, I don't want to say authentic as possible, but as close to source as we're trying to do in terms of an actual presentation of the theme and the melody. He gets close. He gets right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, yeah. You also have Lenny White on drums, an artist who lived the Miles evolution from the fusion side. How does his weight as a drummer influence how you pace your solos in this acoustic setting?
Well, Lenny White is a dynamic drummer. I mean, one of the greatest to ever do it, in my opinion. And he was fortunate to have spent time with Miles. He's on Bitches Brew. He had conversations with Miles. So he brings, obviously, a strong perspective. And he comes from that lineage of drummers that work with Miles and some other aspects of the music that he's been able to pull and create his own space and his own place as a dynamic jazz drummer.
What can the audience expect from this kind of blues set that they simply cannot get from listening to the original record? Are you going to dive into any other Miles Davis material as well?
I think what's unique about this, obviously, too, Buster Williams, who did work with Miles Davis. So he brings another perspective, a real element to give it the authenticity, having worked with Miles. Patrice Rushen is an unbelievable musician and pianist, and people are always quite shocked when they see her in this setting, how comfortable and how authentic and genuine she is in this area. And Donald Harrison is another person that was able to have some moments with Miles as well. Myself, I only met him once through Art Blakey, and a lot of my close friends worked with, a couple of my close friends work with, well, it's more than a couple, a few of my close friends work with Miles on occasion. So I have Art Blakey worked with Miles Davis, or Elvin Jones knew Miles, or Jimmy Cobb. So a lot of musicians, Kenny Garrett that I know, very close, Branford Marcellus, so forth, they've had time. So I'm able to get a firsthand depiction or a conversation. I'm fortunate, on occasion to talk to Mr. Rollins. And so Mr. Sonny Rollins gives me a very, very clear understanding of the kind of individual that he was. And so through those conversations in the music, this group will give its own unique spin on it. It doesn't necessarily need to be made comparable in as much as we're celebrating them and we're trying to represent that recording as best as possible. And I really believe these artists here that are on this stage will do that, and it will be a memorable experience.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And let me remind our listeners, you can catch the music of Miles Davis, Kinda Blue. The concert is featuring Dr. Eddie Henderson and Lenny White. It's coming up at the SF Jazz Center's Minor Auditorium in San Francisco. Joining them on stage will be Donald Harrison, Charles Buster Williams, and Patrice Rushen, the great Patrice Rushen. Wow. There will be 2 performances on Saturday, March 21st, an afternoon show at 4 p.m., and the evening show starts at 7:30 p.m. For tickets and full schedule, visit sfjazz.org and learn more about Javon's latest projects at javonjackson.com. Javon, thank you so much for the interesting conversation today. I really enjoy it, and sharing your insights on these 2 incredible projects.
Steve, thanks for your time, and it was very much a pleasure. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for your continued support of the art form.
All right. Can't wait for you to get to San Francisco, man.
Good to see you soon.
All right. For Backstage Bay Area, I'm Steve Roby. Stay tuned for these important messages.
Are you a jazz musician preparing for a run in San Francisco? The Backstage Bay Area podcast wants to help tell your story. We are currently filling our guest lineup with the artists keeping the jazz scene alive. If you have dates booked at a local club or concert hall, let's get you on the mic to discuss your latest work. Connect with us directly. Send an email to backstage.sfbay@gmail.com. Just let us know when you'll be playing in San Francisco. That's backstage.sfbay@gmail.com.
Backstage Bay Area is dedicated to keeping jazz alive in the 415 by spotlighting the artists, presenters, and venues that sustain this music. The most meaningful way to support local jazz is simple. Show up, buy a ticket, and experience the music live. Visit BackstageBayArea.com and explore our upcoming concerts section, featuring both a weekly guide and a weekend guide to jazz shows across the region, plus the latest concert news. Thank you for keeping jazz alive in the 415.
You've been listening to the Backstage Bay Area podcast. Visit us on the web at BackstageBayArea.com. And don't forget to keep jazz alive in the 415.